The weather is cooperating with us a little bit here in Cleveland. It's about 28 degrees, but the roads are clear and there's no snow at the moment, although there is more on the way. I thought I'd take a little drive in this flat out awesome 53 Buick Roadmaster Woody model 79R. It's one of 670 that were built, and there might be, I don't know, maybe 20 or 30 of them left. It's noteworthy for a couple reasons. It was the first year for Buick's Nailhead V8, which is a fairly significant step forward. It's also the final year for any wood-bodied wagon in the United States. There were cars that had wood for decoration, but this is the last one to use it as a structural component of the body. You can see it there in the rear pillars and the tailgate. All of that is wood. This particular car has lived a very easy life. All of that wood is original to the car. It's been refinished but never restored, and that gives it that lovely golden color. There's not a speck of rust anywhere on the car, inside and out, extremely clean. It was a color change from light green to the current imperial blue, which is a very, very dark blue. Chrome was refinished, interior's new, engine rebuilt, and it's just gorgeous. So let's get in, take a drive while the weather lets us have some fun with it. Up close you can just see how beautiful the original woodwork really is. Just gorgeous. And this rear pillar here is the critical part on any Buick wagon because it holds up the whole roof, supports the tailgate, all the windows, so that's really your foundation. All new interior, correct colors. Again, as a color change from green to blue, that means everything inside that is blue is new. Familiar 3-gauge panel, and like Buick's did for many years, it uses a starter under the foot pedal, under the accelerator, and this one fires right up quickly and easily. Gauges are all working, oil pressure's coming up. You can see the ammeter's doing its thing. It's chilly, so hopefully it'll warm up a little bit. I am going to go over here and turn on the heater. You could hear the fan kicking in a little bit. It doesn't like the cold very much, but it's spinning. The warning light for the emergency brake works just fine. And this is a Dynaflow car, which, if you haven't driven it, is kind of a unique experience. There are no gears, there are no shifts. This car does have power steering, so very easy to manage. Power brakes as well. And even though it's ice cold, it runs superbly. Smooth, torquey, nothing to worry about. In fact, we're thinking about taking it in a parade tomorrow, although I don't think we will given the weather. That natural wood is appealing on wood wagons, of course, but the downside is, and surely part of the reason they were discontinued, is the fact that they're noisy when the weather changes. It's cold and dry, the wood is shrinking, and that means all the doors are rattling a bit, the tailgate's rattling a bit. In the summer, the wood will swell up in the humidity, and that will be less of a factor, but it's one of the things you have to live with when you drive a woody wagon. How much engine noise you can hear. There's a little bit of wind noise around the windows, and I can hear the tailgate rattling. You can probably hear that in the background. The engine is very quiet, and there are no perceptible shifts from the Dynaflow. It's a strange sensation if you've never driven one before. It almost feels like a modern automatic transmission that is slipping. But suddenly you're going 50 or 60 miles an hour and no problems. Everything's working right and it's very seamless. Power steering is nice on this car, and it's got plenty of punch. That nail head's a torque factory, and boy, this car really steps off the line nicely. It's got a nice V8 sound, and I think at the next light I'll shut up and let you hear it accelerate, because there are no shifts. But we're whistling along here at about 45 miles an hour without any concerns. Heater seems to be warming up. It's doing its job. It's getting comfortable in here. Big V8 up there is just effortless, just pulling this car along, even though it weighs probably 4,400 pounds, pulling it along without any effort at all. Nice mechanical sound coming from up front. It sounds expensive. It's riding on bias ply tires that are probably as old as the restoration, so 10 or 12 years old. I might replace them. I can feel it tugging a little bit as I go down the road and find grooves that you ordinarily wouldn't see or feel in a car with radials, but the bias ply tires tend to spot them better, and it pulls the front end around a little bit. A set of radials on this car would really transform it. They're also a little bit flinty. There's the turn signal working as it should. And as we accelerate here, I'll keep my mouth shut. Whisking along here at about 50 miles an hour. Quiet and comfortable. Plenty more in reserve. Speedometer on this car seems pretty accurate. I think it's even a bit of an optimist, showing 50 miles an hour when we're going about 53. Along here where there's a little grooving in the road, I can definitely feel the bias ply tires hunting around a little bit. Not bad, it's easy to control, and the power steering certainly makes just the fingertips necessary. But if you really want to make a car like this into the ultimate 50s road trip car, radials are just a smart choice. And I'll admit I'm a little biased, but I think a set of chrome wire wheels on this particular car would absolutely look spectacular, particularly with the dark blue paint. Expensive, but I think probably worth every single penny. Thing about this car is that in 1953 Buicks also switched to 12 volts, so that means you have bright lights, strong starting. Many of the issues with the former 6-volt systems are completely eliminated. I think I'm going to turn on the headlights here, at least the parking lights, give us something. Let's see, we got the little map lights that are connected to the dimmer switch, just like in a modern car. The dash lights are on, but it's daylight, so they're not so easy to see. You can See, all the gauges are working. There's the ammeter showing the turn signal doing its thing. You can see it's warmed up a bit. Plenty of oil pressure. And I think even the gas gauge is working in this car. Power steering and power brakes really make it effortless. I mean, just like any modern car, you can just one finger it, zip it around corners. Men, women, everyone should be able to enjoy this big Buick. And that was the point. This was Buick's top of the line, most expensive car in 1953. It was expensive than about a third of the Cadillacs, in fact. So there really shouldn't be any compromises for a driver in a car like this. But it just keeps up effortlessly with traffic. Dynaflow means you don't have to worry about shifting or clutching. Easy to live with in the city. Brakes straight, no issues there. The steering wheel is unique to 1953, including the 50th anniversary emblem there in the center, and these 4 bars here were part of all the 53 anniversary cars. The Skylark was the car that was designed to celebrate the anniversary, but every car they built that year got a little bit of extra attention to show that they were having a celebration. Roadmaster's 322 cubic inch nailhead V8 has a 4-barrel carburetor on it. It's 188 horsepower and 300 pounds of torque. Those numbers may seem kind of modest, but the Dynaflow's torque multiplication really makes it feel like a torque factory. It steps off beautifully, and it pulls very well at any speed. I think the Dynaflows get a bad reputation for being mushy, and I think that's only because it's not snapping your head with every shift like a Turbo 400 with a shift kit might. But for a luxury car, it's entirely appropriate. This engine has more than enough power to make up for the parasitic losses. And with those torque converters providing the gear shifting, so to speak, there's a lot of torque multiplication going on. So this car really feels quick and nimble on its feet. There's a definite stop in the throttle linkage where I can feel I'm brushing up against the secondaries in the 4-barrel. I haven't even touched them yet. I apologize for the condition of the pavement here in Northeast Ohio. It's terrible, partly due to the weather and partly because the people who live here refuse to pay for their tax levies. So hey, you saved $1.50 a week, but your roads are falling apart. Good job, guys. But again, a lot of these rattles that I'm hearing would probably go away in the winter, in the summertime, when the wood is warm and the air is humid. Depending on where you live, you may never experience that ever. I don't think this car is going to be anybody's winter driver ever again. And given the condition of the sheet metal underneath, I don't think it ever has been. Still uses Buick's standard wishbone front suspension with lever action shocks, a torque tube, and a solid rear axle. Well, it's not breaking any new ground there. But it does ride quite well. It doesn't feel like a big heavy commercial vehicle, but the luxury car that it is. There's my Limited, which I've been driving every day, even here in the winter, just because I can. I'll pull up here, we'll do another walk around, and I can show you tail lights and things like that doing their thing. The radio and clock are offline, which is typical, but the heater is working real well. It's quite comfortable in here. Just listen, the thing is almost silent. It runs beautifully. Parking lights are on. You can see the right turn signal's doing its thing. 12-volt electrics mean nice bright lights, great headlights, easy to replace bulbs at your local auto parts store. So it becomes very, very low maintenance. You can see the tail light, the turn signal working in the back. This car does have optional backup lights, which were integrated into the bumper guards here in the back. Got a nice 8-cylinder hum. Not flashy, not exciting, not muscle car, but certainly precise and expensive sounding. And if you were going to buy the top of the line Buick, they wanted to make sure everybody saw that you were driving a Roadmaster. This is probably the car's best angle right here. So I will end it there. Thanks for watching. See you next time.